Hello everybody, I'm going to do a video tutorial series on do-it-yourself landscaping. So we're going to start off with just a basic bungalow. So here we have an area which would be nice to dress up, and of course we have this area that we want to dress up, but we want to make sure that when we do that, we're not going to cover up the windows to stop the light from coming in. And the other thing that you want to keep in mind is the sunlight. So depending on which way your house faces, let's say that your house faces north, so you're going to have sunlight that comes from this way to this way, which means that there's going to be ample sun going across your property. If your house faces east, you're going to have afternoon shade, which gives you a whole different perspective on plant material that you're going to choose, because you want to make sure that plants are going to grow where you're going to put them. You can't put shade tolerant plant material in full sunlight and vice versa. It's not going to work. Alright, so let's go ahead and take this island bed in front of a bay window. So this is going to be probably your living room, and we're going to go and we're going to go ahead and put in soil. So when you're doing soil for your beds, triple mix is what we always use. It's good to remove existing clay and that sort of thing, because plants are not going to do well in that. So I would, if I were you, remove some of that and put in a good triple mix soil. So once you have the triple mix soil in, you can go ahead and do the planting, and then afterwards we're going to top it off with mulch. Let's just choose cedar here, for example, and we're going to choose another cedar for this point right here. Okay, so we have something to kind of surround the bay window. You don't want to put anything too tall underneath the bay window, because that's going to cause problems later on. Look at the maximum height of the plant material that you're going to choose, and make sure that it's not going to impede over top of the window. So boxwoods need to be maintained to a certain degree. You're going to clip them if you have like a little green velvet or a green gem. For that matter, you can keep them in check fairly easy, just like that. So now you also have a nice backdrop in the winter time. It's not going to look so blah. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to put in some nice flowering shrubs. Again, pick something that's not going to get too crazy big. Hydrangeas are great. I mean, they're my go-to plant. They look good almost all summer long, and they start blooming late spring, and they'll bloom right until the winter time in most cases. So pick a nice hydrangea that is going to suit the brick of the house. You can pick from lime green to white to red to, blues. There's so many different kinds and different styles that you can purchase. So like I said, a hydrangea is always a nice go-to plant, and in the winter time it's going to look basically just like a bunch of sticks, right? So you're not going to have something that's going to look really good in the winter time, but that's what we have this evergreen backdrop for. Alright, so we're going to just keep this to the 3, and then we're going to fill in a base plant right along here, and I'm going to choose something along the lines of let's put in a hosta, for example. So you can put in a nice row of hostas, or if you want to add some color, you can always add in some daylilies, that sort of thing, but in this case I'm just going to use hostas just to kind of fill this area in. Now we got this little pocket here, and I want to put in something a little bit unique, so let's put in something that's fairly low growing, and I'm going to do something along the lines of the Japanese forest grass. So now we have something that's got a nice little look to it, a little bit modern, a little bit old fashioned style. And this is, we can change these up if you want to do something in, for example, bobo hydrangea or bombshell hydrangea. You can change these up as well. Bobo is probably more suited for a house like this because it's smaller. And then we have this area here that we're going to also dress up. Now, depending on how close your neighbor is going to determine whether you need privacy or not. But let's plop in another house and take a look, see what happens here. So we're going to drop this house right here. Right, it's fairly close to you. So what you might want to consider is putting in a privacy panel. Now let's put in a privacy panel so that we can add a little bit of privacy to our property. Okay, you might want to be just a little bit away from your property line, and we'll put in a couple of panels just so that you have a nice little backdrop. Okay, and if you want to get in, if you have to get in through here, then I would recommend maybe putting in stepping stones to get there. But if you don't, you might want to take and put in a nice columnar tree. We'll put in a beech. So in this case here, you may want to put in some sort of a pyramidal beech, kind of like that. And we'll keep these panels right there as a backdrop. But we're going to create a planting bed that's going to give you some really nice color in the front on this side of your house. So there you have a nice little planting bed. Pull this out to the edge of the walkway so it's easy to cut your grass. And there we have a new planting bed that we're going to dress up. So if you want to match the right side of your property on the front, we can go ahead and do the same thing. We can add some hydrangeas, but we're going to choose something that's a little bit different color. We're going to pick a pink. Three more pink hydrangeas in here. And if you really like the idea of the privacy panels and you want to do something along the lines of a vine, put a nice clematis up here. So that'll give you something nice to grow up against the back there. Now that we got these two windows, and I know what it's like to live in a side split, so I've had this before too. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to put something that's very low growing. It could be like a Tom Thumb Tony Aster, for example. Okay, you might want to do a couple of those just to kind of give you greenery but not block the window. And then in this point here we can again put something a little bit bigger. In this case I'm going to go with Japanese Purus right here. So these are really nice. These are really nice shrubs. So now you're kind of away from the window a little bit. Maybe we'll do a little bit more of the low growing shrubs like that. And then we're going to add ornamental grasses. Carl Forster grass. We could put in the Carl Forster grass right up along the edge here. And we can also do a nice little border of ornamental grasses. Little prairie or standing ovation or something like that as far as an ornamental grass goes. And then we're going to add some flowers and whatnot in here. Stilbees are great. And they'll give you some nice, it's a perennial, so you don't have to plant it over and over again. So when you go to your garden center, you might want to have a look at the sizes that are available. There are some that grow quite tall, and have a pretty heavy flower, and there's some that grow very tiny, kind of like little petite things. I'm going to change this a little bit, bring this up around here, because I want to do something a little bit different over here. So I'll take these guys here like that. So he can probably grow pretty tall, which doesn't really matter. An ornamental grass like Karl Forster, you can keep them where they are and let them, even when they die back in the winter time, they're nice to look at because they kind of sway in the wind, and there's really not a lot going on in the garden. So Karl Forster is kind of nice, and then in the springtime that you cut it right down to the ground and new shoots come up. So we have a nice edge there, and then we have something here that we can put in some nice flowers as well. Some people don't like daylilies anymore, but I love them because they seem to be everywhere, but they're nice because they fill out so nicely, and they can really expand the mass planting. And if you want to, on a budget, you can always split these off in the spring, and you can if you're on a budget and you want to save on half the plants of these perennials here, you can just split these off and then plant them as time goes on. So I just noticed something that you should really do, and that's pull these plants away from the house a little bit because of the overhang. So we have an overhang here, which is probably the driest part of the property. So what I'm going to do in this case is I'm going to take, and we're going to put in a band of riverstone just to kind of finish it off and make it look good. It all matches up very nice, and you're going to be super happy with this because it's not a lot to maintain. There you have it. Another thing that you probably want to do, if your city doesn't already do it for you, is to have a nice tree in the front yard. Be very selective about what you want. Check to make sure that your maintenance level is going to be high enough to handle something like a Japanese maple, or sugar maple, for example. The other option is going evergreen. You can add an evergreen to your front yard, and they don't have to be big when you first buy them, but you can also get them brought in with a tree spade if you're a little bit impatient for them to grow. But in this case, I'm going to add a oak. There we go. So we're going to add a pin oak, lovely tree. You might want to put it off to the side of the house a little bit to give you privacy through. This might be bigger windows, whatever. Or you might want to put it right here because you want to block off the street view. So there you have it. We're going to do a quick walkthrough and see what it looks like, and once it's rendered. And there you have it. So that's your curtain peel. If you're on a budget, like I said, this is a very budget-friendly kind of landscape. Perennials are not; they don't cost a lot. The only thing that would be quite expensive would be the size of the tree. So if you're going to pick a tree that's quite large, yes, it's going to cost you a lot. But for a few $100, you can plant this up. Make sure that you dig the soil deep enough and put in proper topsoil, triple mix topsoil. And then once you're finished planting, then you can add a layer of mulch on top. Don't put landscape fabric underneath the mulch because the mulch itself will turn into soil at some stage. There's no sense putting in mulch under or fabric underneath mulch. I hope this helps. Any questions, give me a call. If you like, hit the like button or subscribe. I'll add more videos as time goes on. Again, it's Fred from landscapingadvisors.ca.